I am starting to be right. That is very rare, but I am actually starting to be right about all this. We all know the villain alliance would not lose this war. After all, despair will never truly loses, it always wins, which is why I hate villains. But I have been pointing out one thing is that while the Liberation Army really have everything they need to become truly and very dangerously a threat, which they are, the fact that they picked their fight with the villain alliance was an incredibly stupid move because they are making them not only more deranged, they are also making them more powerful. Because now, Twice unleashes the shackles inside of his body, and that is his mental trauma, and getting more unhinged now than ever. But before that, we dive once again a little deeper into the tragic backstory of the man called Twice, or Jin Nabakashawa. Well, I can't say his name, so I'll just say Twice. The anger and offended despair reviewer. Having his hood removed, of course, causes him to become worried as the robot clones surrounds Toga, preparing to kill her. We see skeptic beginning to work very hard while many other people are on standby in order to well break Twice further. Is the fact that's how skeptic works and his ability, absolute control over puppets. It is also revealed that he is sitting on a guy while another guy is holding the computer. They are shaped after gorillas at all. So, with the information they have been gathering from the data that they stole from the Brooker, it turns out that Twice have a psychological witness. So, seeing robots that are shaped like him killing someone he cares for, then that will be bad. And the robots do prepare to try to snap her neck, which is as Twice has more and more of a mental breakdown, we actually dives deeper into his backstory, and it is actually even more tragic than we thought before. He was alone. He had no family. His family died while he was still in middle school, and he had no relatives at all. He had trouble fitting in, not only because of his quirk, but just because of who he was. He had a scary face and people tended to avoid him. He even got an incident with the police because apparently it's the fact that uh, the man that you hit with your motorcycle has got his arms broken. And it seems that although Twice says that was because the guy was jumping at him. So uh, so this will get him a. So Twice could never truly have a job because the guy, an accident with a motorcycle against a man who supposedly jumped forward towards him, was actually an important client to place Twice used to work with. So the boss fired him. One was on the top of look what you guys had done to him. You know, I find that suspicious. A guy jumped. I mean, if we are to believe this story, then Twice drove into a man and broke his arm. But according to Twice, this guy was jumped right in front of his motorcycle. Not to mention the fact that this guy just happened to have been a top client from the same kind of work that Twice used to work for. Is that really a coincidence? Either way, the boss was heartbroken the fact that he lost the best customer, so he fired Twice. And that is why Twice turned to villainy, because he had nowhere to fit. No one gave him a chance, and he already got a criminal record, so he was forced to turn to villainy because he had no other choice. And he just wanted someone to talk to, and that is when he started to duplicate himself, because he believed that if he can't find anyone to share his misery with, then he will share his misery with himself. And at the beginning it worked, because after all, his clones just wanted the same thing as he wanted to. They wanted someone to just hear the same kind of words as one thing. trust to be trusted. It was fun. And that is how Twice actually became a villain and a robber. It is actually turns out that Twice was actually a notorious robber even before he joined the Villain Alliance. He had a reputation, and his clones were basically the gang, whatever thing else. But the thing is, though, this was also when the time the tragedy happened. He described it, though, that the clones didn't want to do chores because they was just as lazy as him. But this seems to imply that the paranoia of thinking I want to live an easy life was also the same things that his clones began to think. So, and he began to make mistakes after mistakes, and then he fell rock bottom, and then it happened. The clones then killed themselves while tying him up. And that was so the real reason for his psychology warfare is that Twice cannot even trust himself. He cannot trust people because they never gave him a chance, and now he couldn't even trust himself. He had nothing anymore. It was during this time that the Brooker came to him, well, somewhere along that time when the Villain Alliance come. And it turns out that we now see why the Brooker meant so much to Twice. I mean, he said that he was the one who introduced him to the Villain Alliance, but and it turns out that it's true. The Brooker came to Twice knowing exactly who he was and the fact that he was also one of the government's most wanted criminals. And here he's saying something very scary. With his quirk, Twice even could take down countries. As the Liberation Army says, Twice's power is way more creative and way more, well, suitable than he cares to admit. And that is true. If anybody uses that power, they can really do take over the world. They can make clones of other people and they won't even know it. So there was the Brooker who suggested he should become trusted by friends by joining the same kind of people that have more common, I think, like that. As he sees all this, he tries to save Toga, but the clones, the robot clones breaks Twice's arms while saying that it was during this time that Toga begins to regain consciousness. However, this is where Skeptic did his first mistake, because as Twice has said many times before, he cannot trust himself because he's not even sure if he's real anymore. But now he is hurting, and he is not disappearing. And all this time he's beginning hurt. He began, even with the battle with Gigantia, he was so scared of disappearing. He's always been that, making the wrong decisions. And at least this is how he sees himself. And all he could do was try to hurt himself, and I should have known right away. But instead I chose to run away and fall. So with that, he unleashes the true power of his quirk, now with more deranged eyes than ever, saying that I would never kill a friend. I will show you just how terrifying my ability can be, Liberation Army. And indeed, he does show the terrifying power of his quirk, because before he has always had a measure and then cloning them. But now, and his arms are now broken, but now they pop out of his body, wielding his mask. Twice's quirk is also upgrading. All that it takes is a bad day for a villain to become this way. And as I said in the beginning of this review, the Liberation Army are idiots. They are making the Villain Alliance more powerful because they're diving into their deepest psychological issues, where they are forcing them to do that. I mean, I wouldn't say the Liberation Army are bad villains. I would just want to say that the way they approach things is not how the Villain Alliance approaches things. Well, they are opposing each other, but I'm trying to say something here, something very confusing. They're approaching this just like how they drive their companies: corruption, politician, edition, and computering, like a structured system. Shisaki had a substance system, but then he couldn't improvise. They have a substance system, but they don't seem to realize that there are cogs that just doesn't follow logic. And that is the villain alliance. They're not following logic because they're breaking the quirks. Of course, one can actually say that this is exactly what Skeptic wanted. After all, he wants the quirk of Twice to be very useful to the Liberation Army. But the thing is, Twice says he will never kill a friend. So I have no idea how they will thought killing Twice by his own hand will do that way. But maybe Twice's mind just snapped even further. I mean, in a way, I would consider Twice to be one of the more likable guys of the Villain Alliance. He's a tragic character, and he was forced into villainy. He had no choice. He was an utterly outcast, and I can understand that. It's not that I really know if he really wants to hurt people, but all he really just wanted was to have friends. And he thinks he finally found one. So he's a relatable villain, actually. But you give me your thoughts if you have any.